But there might be a lot of new things that people don't quite understand right off the bat. And one of the things that I talk to the Wargaming guys about for World of Tanks is there's a lot of information presented to you as a new player. Now, they just recently added the battle tutorial, which really helps you get a very solid foundation of how the tanks work, where to aim, the different mechanics of the tanks, and the physics of World of Tanks when you're playing and shooting and cover and camouflage and the such. So if you're a new player, definitely check out the battle tutorial. But gentlemen, I have you on here not just to talk about the game types, but also give some tips to the new players. So James, starting with you, what are some things to know right off the bat playing World of Tanks?
Well, just jumping in the World of Tanks, I know like when you first log in, there's a lot of information, like you were saying, right in front of you there. And really, World of Tanks is one of these games that it's really easy to start and really hard to master because there's a lot of stuff. So it's one of those things you just kind of ignore all the stuff about crews and crew skills and equipment and all that at first. I mean, that's all stuff you can learn. World of Tanks has a wiki. We have wattpro.com, all kinds of different things you can go to for lots of information later on. But starting out, just click on a tank on the bottom and hit battle, and you're good to go. Go shoot some things. And that's really my biggest tip just starting out for a new player.
It's pretty self-explanatory enough. I mean, you start off with a light tank, and you have a couple variable selections you can make depending on the different nation. If we take a look at the tech tree here, guys, in the game itself, the top nation, United States of America, because go America, and you'll see some of the tanks that you can choose. The T1 is automatically selected for you, the T1 Cunningham, and the different tanks that you can choose along the tech path. You have different nations you can choose from: British, German, the French, then you have also the USSR, and the Chinese tech tree. The Chinese tanks have been added in recently. And there'll be more and more tanks added from Wargaming. I believe a total, they said, around 500 is their goal. So look for new tanks being released in the future. David, do you have any tips for new players or anything that they need to know starting the game?
Well, like you said, it's relatively easy to get started in, and then it gets much harder. So I would say, follow his advice. Pick a tank. I would recommend the T1, the American one. It's really the best tank in Tier 1. And then basically decide if you like the game or not. And if you do, then you want to go read as much as you can about the game mechanics themselves. Once you kind of understand how spotting and camo works, you will get much better very quickly. And then after that, don't be afraid to buy a little gold. It will save you astronomical amounts of time, especially if you buy a premium tank, which will allow you to earn credits very quickly, which is really the kind of the biggest problem, I think, for everybody. Experience comes relatively easily, but credits, that's a much harder thing to come by.
You could say there are 3 types of currencies in World of Tanks. You have gold, which costs real money. You have credits, which is earned by playing the game, and then you have experience. And the experience is used to unlock tanks and to unlock different pieces of the tank that you can customize and improve and add to your tank, and it also takes credits to buy them. So you use the experience to unlock it, and then you use the credits to actually purchase it. So at first you're like, okay, I need this first and then that, but you do get the hang of it after obviously unlocking a couple tanks. Now I want to look at one of the tech trees here in my account, and I'm actually following the American tech tree, and I was told by one of the members of the North American teams that I should unlock the T11 0E5, which is E5 for short, which is a heavy tank all the way to the right. Now, I'm obviously not there yet, but he told me to follow this tech path of the T2 medium and to continue down this pack and unlock the M4 Sherman. Now, you gentlemen will agree the M4 Sherman is one of the greatest tanks in World of Tanks. So much fun to play. I have unlocked the tank afterwards, the Sherman Jumbo, and will continue to follow this tech line down to the T29 and continue to the T11 0E5. Now, it seems like a lot of work, and it is. You have to pay your dues when playing World of Tanks because it does take time to play. But whenever you unlock a new upgrade for your tank or a new tank itself, it is really exciting. And you get to experiment and see how that tank works, how it's different from the tank that you previously played, and how you can interact with your teammates to use the tank to its full benefits, really, for your team itself. And that's just one tech tree. The Chaffee, which is a tier 5 light tank, is one of the best light tanks I've heard in the game, or at least really good to get for the American tech tree. And that's just one nation. There's many different nations to play here and different tanks that you can purchase and play. But for new players, and you mentioned premium tanks, David, what are some tanks that they should be shooting for? Do you have any tech tree advice, which goals they should be setting, or which premium tanks they should purchase?
Well, as far as premium tanks go, there's a lot, so it's pretty hard to discuss. I prefer the tier 8 premium tanks myself. I know a lot of people play around with the tier 5 and below ones, but I haven't very much, so I don't really have any useful advice there. I would say the IS-6 is probably one of the best ones because you can fire premium ammo, which does more penetration, exclusively through that tank and still make money, which is nice.
Mm-hmm. If we can go back to the tech tree here showing off the different premium tanks. The premium tanks require gold to purchase. So right here is the T26 E4 Super Pershing. That's 7,200 gold to purchase. Once you purchase a premium tank, you don't have to buy any upgrades. This tank will have an added benefit of experience and gold, and you can actually use the experience from that tank and with some gold that you purchase, convert it to free experience. And this is experience that you can apply to any tank in the game to unlock it faster. So you don't necessarily have to play, for example, a bad tank like the M3 Lee, which is just a really, really bad tank. Like you cannot turn the turret whatsoever. But I had to play through that tank in order to unlock the M4. But because I had a premium tank before, the T1 Cunningham, I was able to play that and convert the experience to unlock it faster. So there's different methods to do that. You did mention the Pershing, I think, before, Dave, when we were talking about different tanks that you liked. James, what would you say is your favorite tank or the tank that you like to play the most before you got competitive or even in your competitive career?
Before I got competitive, the Pershing was probably one of my favorite tanks, and the Patton, which is right after that. But obviously, when we started getting more competitive, we had to go for specific tanks in certain tiers. At which point, the 5100, and strangely enough, the IS-3 became one of my other favorite tanks. I used to absolutely hate the IS-3, had no idea what I was doing in that tank. And then one of our teammates, Soviet, conveniently, who plays IS-3 all the time, helped me out with that. It's a Russian tank, so Soviet, it goes together.
He's living up to his name. He's living up to his name.
Yep.
Well, that really helped me out when I was first playing the game to understand, okay, what are my goals as a player? What do I want to unlock? And by unlocking these different tanks, I start to learn the fundamentals of the game, have fun with some different players, form some friendships, and with these different tiers, really lock down the fundamentals of what it's like to play World of Tanks. Now, there are a lot of different tips and tricks out there to understand how to win different fights, how to position your tank to absorb shots better, or for the shells that are being fired at you to bounce off your armor. And that is really important. It's really, really important in understanding different team fights mechanics and also the strengths of your tanks. So there are wikis out there that give concise or really in-depth descriptions of the different tanks and the different play styles and tips and tricks that you can use to become better and better. But just like these gentlemen said, get in there, start playing, and you can understand the different mechanics on the fly. And then researching more and more, you'll be able to understand better the verbiage and the vocabulary of how they're trying to describe the different tips and tricks. And if you want to play with me, just hit me up, Clutch08 on the World of Tanks account. I'll play with you and try to give you a couple tips here and there that I've learned from these guys and from other teams as well.